Hi, I'm Yapo,
And I'm Asian 355.
and welcome back to Poxnora. Today I'm using a new deck. It
And did
is...
Skype? Oh, okay.
No, Skype didn't die. You're fine. Anyway,
All
we
right.
have
I
Sundered
think your internet
Lands,
hiccuped.
preferably. Sundered Lands Draksars, which is one that we saw previously that's been nerfed into the ground, against, I think it's Drunks. I think we're playing Drunks, which is awesome, and is a cool theme for cool dudes.
What is drunks? Is that the
Literally,
the drunk dwarves?
yep, and they have guys now that can like throw a keg that gets everyone drunk in an area and other awesome shit like that. And drunkenness helps dwarves and hurts everyone else.
Nice.
So,
I
uh,
like how the dwarfs version of shiny ground is throwing alcohol at people.
yeah,
Hmm.
I would love to have alcohol thrown at me if I were a dwarf, or really just any time, to be honest.
You're a lush.
That's true.
Okay.
So we
So we
were
got
talking.
lava.
Yes, we were talking about maps. This map actually has everything. It has every terrain type,
Yeah,
and it
I,
has
I see
pits.
ice, lava. I see pits. I even see that they have little custom effects for lava that touches pits, so you can see it like flowing over the edge.
Hmm.
That's
So
pretty
this
pretty
was one of the
snazzy.
maps I really like, just because, especially if you're running a deck that's got like fire eaters in it, because then you can just run around
Yeah.
the font on the lava and be like, haha, you can't hurt me enough, and I'm still close enough to contest.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Unfortunately, this map shows off one of the really weird glitches in the way Poxnora is coded. So every piece of terrain has a terrain type, a location, and then an elevation, which are all like stats for the map. And the way it's coded,
Okay.
you can only go up and down one elevation at a time.
Makes sense.
So the pits are at 0 elevation, and the lava and the rock next to it is at 2 elevation. So you can't actually knock someone into the pit from that side unless they have a specific ability that lets them ignore elevation changes.
Huh. That actually is pretty weird.
And I see it happen all the time with new players who try and do like use one of the spells to like possess somebody or a knockback or something and it doesn't happen and I'm just like suckers. You don't know the really obtuse mechanics of this game that you would never have a reason to look for except on this one map.
We call that skill ceiling, Yapo.
Oh, okay.
It's a feature, not a bug.
Right. Most of the other maps they kind of like evened out and stuff, so you don't notice it. But this one, it's still the exact same. So
So we're playing lizard people. Remind me again what lizard people were good at.
this particular lizard people deck, they all have an ability called Violent, which means every time they do an attack and they're standing near one of their buddies, they gain damage permanently. So the goal is basically get a critical mass of dudes together and whack them a bunch and kill everything with your million points of damage. It's pretty straightforward, I'll be honest. There's not a whole lot of finesse to this. And in this particular one I'm doing, I'm running something like 23, 24 champions and the Tainted Statue, which is increases spell cost by 50%. So basically, I don't want them to use spells, and I'm just going to keep putting dudes out as long as I can.
Oh, well, you know how I feel about spells. So
I've got, I think,
me and
two.
my extremely valuable insight into the game I've never played.
Well, it's not like the overall strategy is super hard to grasp with this game. To be fair, I mean the
And I am
nuances get really tricky, but
and I'm confirmed world's best Blood Bowler, so I'm pretty good at strategy games.
um, a no,
Is there B?
no, there's just an A because you're an a
Oh,
hole.
yeah. That's terrible. I didn't even get two qualities. That's just I see where I stand in this relationship.
But the reason this has been nerfed so badly is it used to be every single Draksar in the game had the ability called Violent, so you could play whichever ones you wanted and it still worked the same. After the revamp, they took it off a lot of the really cool dudes.
That makes sense. I mean,
It really does,
it's
but it sucks because they used to be awesome and now it's kind of shit. If you strictly want to stick to guys that can amp up. If you want to expand a little bit, you've got several options, but gotta stick to the theme. Now the only guy that has a ranged attack is the dude up there at the top right corner with a rocket launcher. And he only carries 6 rockets, so after that he has to run up and smack him with his rocket launcher.
he can't reload.
Nope.
No reloading allowed.
Well, he can reload, but he's only got 6 missiles, so
Find an engineer and just yell at him until he puts a dispenser down.
there are actually engineers in this game, but I don't think this faction has any. So, out of luck.
Oh well, it was worth a shot.
Yeah. Anyway, the dwarf there's already got his beer equipped, so he's got a little extra health and a little extra damage.
He actually has a beer as equipment. That's
Yep.
pretty good.
It's called, I think it's Black Label Brew, or no, it's Pale Brew. I'm sorry, they changed the name. So yep, he's got a Pale Brew equipped.
My favorite part about that is like that's pretty much what beer's actually called. That's like not like a fantasy beer name. It's like no, I'm pretty sure that there's probably beer out there called that.
Well, I'm drinking a Pale Ale right now, so I figure that's close enough.
Yeah. So that's pretty close.
And the nice part about that dude is unless you hit him, he does like no damage whatsoever. 'Cause if you hit him, he gets really mad and then hits you back pretty hard, but if you don't hit him, you're fine.
which describes a lot of drunk people. Just kind of leave them alone, and they're pretty not so bad. It's when you poke the bear that you're in trouble.
I guess that's true. I mean, it's good thematic drunkenness.
Yeah. That's one thing I demand in my fantasy strategy games is everyone to be thematically accurate.
This is one of the spells I have, and this spell is stupid good for this deck because it gives everyone with the race of the dudes I'm running multi-attack.
That was pretty quick. Was that like a big shadow of a dragon that passed over when you cast that spell?
Yeah, there's like 3 spells that have that same visual effect, so...
Oh, they're like, we made a wicked cool effect. Let's use it multiple times.
Yeah, there's...
That cheapens it a little bit.
Yeah, it's one of the few like that, and there might be minor differences, but there's just giant dragon shadows flying over the screen, so it's hard to tell.
It's still pretty rad, though.
I would agree. Let's see, the other spells, one of them makes it where you can put out any dragons with extra AP, and one of them adds a bunch of weird effects to your dragons that... It's hard to describe, but basically just like, come at me, bro, skills. Which makes sense if you're a giant dragon, I feel like.
Yeah. I'd say so. Let's see here.
So you may recognize the dude with the hammers from the Paladin videos.
Yep. Yeah, I know him.
He is too good. This Talgar, and he will wreck your shit if you let him.
Push him in a hole. But only from whatever direction you actually can do that from.
I don't have anything that can do that. Actually, I could, theoretically, but it would have to be like a really crazy combination of events. It's kind of like...
he would have to make a hilarious error.
Yeah. It's kind of like it would be like a really crazy surf at this point.
Put everything in Blood Bowl terms. It's great.
I'm pretty sure our fan base has a lot of overlap, so I'm not too worried about it.
This is probably true. We've kind of typecast ourselves a bit.
Yeah, you copier.
You copied Knorr.
Yeah, but I copied first, so you're a copy of the copy. Totally counts.
That's true. It just gets worse from the beginning.
So these dudes have a lot of defense because that's kind of this thing's, this faction, one of this faction's things, and he's wearing a boatload of armor, so you would kind of expect him to have a lot of defense. But luckily, I have a dude that can take care of that. as I click frantically on guys trying to figure out what I'm doing, I guess.
I always actually really like just talking about games in general. When you play games like this, and then you go to talk about them later, like whether it's Blood Bowl or this or other things, and you're like, "Why did I do that? It made so much sense at the time, but now I'm looking back and I feel so stupid." Or what was I thinking right now? What's going through my head?
That was the worst part for me about editing videos. Is like you go through and you're like, God, why didn't I do this? It's right there. I should have done that.
Oh my God, I could have served that guy. Shit. It's really not. I don't think frustrating is the right word, but it's a weird experience trying
I
to reverse engineer what you were doing.
I don't think it's frustrating unless you lose, and then it's frustrating.
Oh yeah, no. And then what you do is you're watching for maybe not this game. This game doesn't really seem to have a whole lot of RNG in it, but certainly Blood Bowl has a ton. And you're just kind of watching, go, okay, did I really just get dice fucked, or did I play badly? I want to know.
Yeah, I
The answer is I always got dice fucked. I never lost legitimately ever.
of course.
It's all cheating, of course.
Also, because I can take away
So
all of
you
his
got so
defense,
you
I can completely wreck that dude. And like I say, every time I attack,
yeah,
I get
that's not good.
extra damage. So that guy's up to 21 damage right now.
And you actually remember, and you picked up the resource, which just makes me happy.
Yeah. Um,
You've got a lovely little scrum of people going.
and by scrum, you mean 4 of my dudes and 1 of his?
I just mean a pile of dudes since you're just getting a bonus attack every time they attack each other nearby.
Yeah. So
You're
also,
familiar with rugby, right? You know what a
yes,
scrum is.
yes, I know what a scrum is, but usually a scrum
Okay.
involves what, seven players from each team, 8 players,
Well, yeah, in
7.
equal numbers, I realize. But would you prefer me to call a pile of dudes?
Yes, that's the official term. I think we're gonna have to start using.
Oh, okay. You got a lovely pile of dudes.
Also, fun fact about this deck: it's actually quite bad. I'm like less than 50% with this deck so far.
Seems to be going pretty okay right now.
Yeah, it's great if your opponent's a bad and runs dudes up next to you where you can just punch them in the face. But the problem is, I have 3 or 4 ranged champs, and that's it. So anyone
Hmm.
that also has ranged champs can. The first game I played with it, actually, I just got fighting over the middle font. I just got picked away until I finally died because he had a bunch of ranged champs that could just stay out of melee range and blink away at me, which was unfortunate. I had a really
Yeah. Well,
awesome like rush going, and then it just fell apart.
you got a rocket dude. He's ranged for a little while.
Yeah, and I've got this dude's ranged. He's got like a fire gun thing and is also awesome because he's got an ability called Defensive Strike, where if someone walks into his range, he shoots them. And he's also got an ability called Punish, where if he shoots somebody, they lose all their AP.
Now, yeah. I I struggle not to ask really basic questions about the game because everyone else probably watched the tutorial video more recently than I did. But there's no cap on AP, is there? You can just keep gaining it. You gain X amount per turn.
Yes, there is a cap on AP. Actually, I don't
Is
know
it
if I
capped at
talked
what,
about that.
10?
No, it's capped at your speed plus 4.
Okay. And speed is how much you gain per turn, so you can only have 4 roll over.
Right.
Okay. Cool. So
And
so taking away all their AP isn't that great because they should have like less than 4 on your turn.
yeah, it's still
There you
actually
go.
surprisingly good because AP is everything. Because almost every ability takes AP. So yeah, so that's what happens when you get a
Okay.
bunch of dudes standing together, punching the crap out of stuff and building up their damage.
You cheated. Got it. No. No.
So rude.
Lizardmen are the best race anyway.
That's true. The lizards are pretty sweet in this game. Oh man, I forgot to check what he said in chat. Oh, I'll never know now.
Was it a goon?
No, it was some random
Oh well,
guy.
then it doesn't matter.
I just wanted to see if
We
he
don't
was. I wanted to see if he was salty.
we don't care what puppies think here, Yapo.
Okay, fair enough. So this is
Except
actually.
except literally half your viewing audience is probably puppies.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, anyway.
This is the new map, and it took me a second to figure out where I was, which one was me. And
Yeah,
since
I can tell this is a newer map because it has a little bit higher production value.
yeah, it's not just oh let's mirror this grass texture 100 times. Done.
Yeah, no, it actually looks like someone made a field and then put a grid over the top of it with what made sense, as opposed to deciding where all the grass was and then trying to draw a picture to fit it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's kind of how they did it in the old days. They actually have been working really hard on the map rotation and the available maps, and apparently they're planning on changing it every expansion now, I believe, is what they said.
Hmm.
Also, I did this like the complete wrong order because I'd never played this map before, and I realized
It would.
it was just bad. So the strategy is you send your guy to the middle first.
That's a cool looking unit.
Basilisk Templar. I actually have those
It's
in
a
my deck
lizard.
too.
It's a lizard riding a lizard.
And the lizard he's riding on can turn you into stone, like some Gorgon.
Well, it's a basilisk. Yeah, that makes sense.
So pretty nifty. But no, so the
You know,
strategies you go for the middle.
what you know what they say? Some Gorgan and some Gor can't.
Wow. And you were giving me shit for my jokes earlier.
To be fair, it's more like I just give you shit for anything I feel like.
That's true. But no, the pro strat
And you
here
return the
is
favor. Don't pretend you don't. All right. Sorry, I'll stop interrupting. Continue.
you go for the middle with your first guy, and then you send the second guy behind him to cover the center while you send the first guy out the side, generally.
Makes sense.
Instead of sending one to the side. Because if you put one to the side first and you go first, and the other guy puts one in the middle, you're pretty well screwed. Also, fun fact, so I don't know if you saw that my guys just took a little damage there. That unit that I put out, the one with like the red hair, that one,
Mm-hmm.
has an ability that does damage to people around her at the end of the turn, which counts for the damage boost. So
Oh,
I stood my two guys within range so they would get hit, and so now she has +2 damage because she hit them with at the end of the turn.
so friendly fire is on, but you can actually use that to your advantage.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. That's a really cool. I want to say gimmick, but I guess that's not really a gimmick. That's just a really cool feature.
I thought it was neat. They're seriously talking about nerfing it because it can get really ridiculous really fast.
And there's not a whole lot your opponent can do about it. It's fairly uninteractive. You know,
I mean, there's
which I
nothing
know
that can be done.
in general. In general, strategy games hate that. They want you to feel like you always have something you can do to fight it.
Yeah, and I mean it makes sense because I could sit back for a while and just be like, "Nope, you can't do anything. Sucks to be you. This is gonna have 1,000,000 damage by the time I'm done."
Exactly.
So actually, looking back at this video, I realized I made a mistake here coming up. So that guy, or so that unit used a thing called constriction, which means that he can't turn me into stone or do anything else like that. He can't use anything besides attack the guy that's constricting, which
Right.
is why I used it so I didn't get turned to stone.
Okay, makes sense.
And so he's gonna come beat the crap out of me probably. But I have lots of defense and lots of HP because this is the defense faction. So no biggie. Ain't no thing.
And again, we've got this nice pile of dudes all set up next to each other, so
He's actually running a
which
very
is
similar deck to what I am, so it's kind of
oh, it kind of balances out then, yeah.
yeah. You end up with a pile on both sides. It's just so we used a spell that gives it flying plus speed and an ability called Horrific Aura, where if I try and attack him, my dude gets scared and he tries to run away, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, he just cast it this turn, which means he put Horrific Aura up this turn, so I can't attack him because if I do, I'll get scared and it won't do any good. But you remember that thing I just said about constriction?
Yeah, I remember that thing.
where he can't activate any of his abilities, so
That's no good.
I could have just nuked him here, and instead I do dumb things. Because it's how I roll.
I forgive you. No, I don't. I will judge you relentlessly for this. 3
I'm sure
videos
you will.
later, I'm going to bring up that thing. Hey, remember that snake lady?
And I forgot that he had done a thing. That little building can make people get free attacks anytime you try and run away from him. And I forgot he put that on his dude. But good thing I do 1,000,000 damage.
That looked like 9, not 1,000,000.
Close enough. It rounds.
Yeah, this is true. It does. That's pretty generous rounding. Must be a media site.
Well, we are bound by the same laws as Fox News, aren't we? And he's not dead yet, but he will be, because I'll put out a giant beehive. But for some reason, the bees don't attack me, they only attack my enemies. I don't know how they know, but I don't know if like part of putting it down is
Yeah,
just
especially
you spray everybody else with like
that
pollen or
is
something. I don't know.
that picture lacks quality. Like, it's kind of funny. You can like every now and then you see a picture that just stands out against the other ones in terms of bad art.
You talking about the Sandstalker dude?
No, the Sandstalker I like, in the Basilisk Templar I like. It was like the other guy, and it was just like drastically different.
Oh yeah, the
It,
Basilisk Templar I really like too.
yeah, the Templar, that's great.
That one?
It's that guy right there. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, that guy was one of the
Compared to like
first.
everyone else. Yeah, yeah. Oh, rip bees.
It's all right. They
All
did
right,
the
that's a
job.
great pick. Now that's great art. Half the video I basically just spent judging the artwork. Is that okay?
That's fine. Yeah, so
Okay.
that archer guy whose art you don't like was the 31st rune created.
Oh yeah, so that was way back when.
Also, looking at the guy that did the art for him, all of these are terrible except one. They're all just bad.
I mean, I guess it's not the art I have a problem with per se, so much as the art style is so drastically different. The contrast is way higher. It looks like it was drawn with, where everything else almost looks like it was it's all shaded and detailed and stuff.
Yeah, everything else
That
looks
one
like
is just kind of very raw.
yeah, that's like yeah, leading dudes. Yeah.
Yeah. If I knew more about art, I would be able to say what supplies it looked like, but I don't know anything about art, so I'm not
Yeah,
qualified to make that judgment.
but no, the archer and the other ones that dude did are all the very like some of the very first ones ever done. I'm sure their budget was substantially lower for artists back then. It was just probably like, "Hey, doesn't your cousin Bob draw?" "Yeah, sure."
Hey, I saw this one guy on DeviantArt. I really like him. We should commission him.
It kind of seems like that at some points. I might have to
That's okay. They had a low budget.
I might have to post some examples of some of that dude's terrible art when we get to this video.
Just don't post Rape Tree. Never again.
I think he did. I don't think he did that one. Now people are gonna have to ask. I'm gonna have to post it again. It's gonna be all your fault.
Yeah, yeah. I know. I just opened the can of worms. The people are like, "What's Rape Tree?" Don't ask.
Don't ask, don't tree. And for some reason, he puts down a relic that helps healing.
Maybe he didn't have enough Nora to summon anything, but he really wanted to do something with his Nora.
But the only healing he's got is like 6 a turn. It's not like he's hitting, big numbers where it's, going from getting a really big bonus. It's just
Well,
dude's a
it seems
bad.
like that was a really bad. It seems like that was not a well move. In fact, if he's got no healing, then really you could say the card doesn't even belong in his deck in the first place.
He's got a little bit of healing, but it's few and far between. So yeah, there we go. Beating dudes up.
All right, 2 wins, 100% win rate.
Yeah, no, I wish that was true. I tanked my rank so hard trying to get good games with this, and most of the time I just got destroyed.
Yeah, and as much as I make fun of you for cherry picking games, it's hard to show off a thing when you just get completely destroyed.
Yeah, and most of it was just like me getting wrecked, and it was like, this is no fun to watch. Like, this isn't even. It's just a slaughter.
Well, I would disagree there. That is fun.
Rude.